Hello and welcome to Pest in Class, expert voices in pest management. Today I speak with JD Jaramillo, owner and general manager of Friendly Pest Solutions. We discuss the elements that make a successful business, like building strong SOPs, the importance of focusing on customers, and how technology and transparency can take you to the next level. I'm your host, Amanda Salvatore. Let's get into it. JD Jaramillo, you are the owner and general manager of Friendly Pest Solutions, and today we are going to be talking about setting up your business for success. I am so excited for you to be on the podcast. You have such a love for the industry, so I think this is going to be a really lovely conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So, like I said, I know that you have such a love for the industry, including the biology. I know we're going to kind of get into that a little bit later, but I have to ask for our icebreaker, what is your favorite pest and why?
I would have to say the roof rat. For one, it brings some really good revenue to the company, and two, it's a very tough pest to deal with and to control. So it really makes you kind of slow down and take a step back and kind of look at the whole environment. If you can solve a rat problem, you can pretty much solve anything. So it's a great feeling, and it just leaves you with a lot of satisfaction as well.
I hear that. I also love a challenge. So tell us about your journey into the industry.
My journey in pest control started when I was very young, just out of college. I really wanted to be a graphic designer after high school. Followed that road for a couple of years. It didn't really pan out. When I decided to leave college, I needed money, so I went and worked for a local pest control company for several years. And the more I was in it, the more I started to love the industry. And it was, I think, at first it was more so like the challenge of solving problems that customers maybe tried on their own and weren't successful. But then it was more the impact that I had after I solved that problem. And then the love that kind of grew in me to eventually open up a business for myself.
Tell me how you decided to go into business on your own with Friendly Pest Solutions.
It's one that took me kind of a long time to finally take the leap. I had a lot of responsibilities. I had two kids just graduating from high school. So it was a big risk. And so that's a lot of the things that kind of held me back from making that decision early was the responsibility part and whether or not I was able to pay the bills. I was really fortunate that my brother and my wife, without them, we wouldn't be where we are today because they took a risk in me and in my dream to open up, my own company. It's been a blessing ever since because, again, without them, I wouldn't be where we are today.
I know that your brother was boots on the ground. Your wife was working with calls and in the office. So I know you started around 2016, but really got off the ground in 2018. Tell me about going into 2018 and really hitting the ground running. What was that like?
It was a lot of work behind the scenes, making sure that I had a good foundation for the company, and so I really worked on standard operating procedures. I really wanted to make sure that when we hired let's say our first team member, that they were going to be able to be trained properly, have a good sense of direction of my expectations of what they needed to do. And so that was really important for me was setting up these standard operating procedures. It's almost like trying to clone yourself so that the people that you bring into your company are aligned with how you are going to handle those customers. It was a lot of long hours, but what I tell anybody is that it's definitely worth the journey just because there's a lot of things that come with it once it's all said and done.
I kind of want to dive into these SOPs. What were the most challenging policies or procedures to define? And how do those SOPs influence your day to day operations now?
The toughest SOPs were the ones where I had to really take things that I just knew from experience and then put them into words. That was the toughest part because it was all here, but okay, how do I get it from here on paper and in a way that we could show it to our team members and hey, this is the way to do things and that kind of stuff. So that was a little challenging. That was the toughest part, like the 8 steps to a proposal that we put together, the 7-step treatment process that we provide for our pest control customers. But again, once you put them into a piece of paper, then it becomes a lot easier. I mean, they keep everything consistent. And so that was very important to me, just the consistency, making sure that our customers, whoever was going out there to service them, got serviced the same way. So that was really important for me.
So you have these 7 steps for treatment, you have 8 setups for a proposal, you have these 2 SOPs. What are some of the steps that you think are necessary for a successful treatment or a successful proposal?
When you have steps for a proposal for, let's say, a sales inspector, that process becomes manageable and it becomes diagnosable. Let's say an inspector goes out and doesn't get the sale on that first visit. You can always go back and look at these steps and see, where things didn't go the right way. And then you could teach, train, and get better at that craft. You want to make sure that you introduce yourself properly, that you asking the right questions in the interview process, that you do a proper inspection inside, outside the attic. If the home has a crawl space, that you're inspecting the crawl space, that you're defining the problem to the customer, that you're describing the solution, that you qualify the company, and that you ask for the business. You want sales inspectors to have the confidence to be able to go through those 8 steps in a conversation, so it doesn't sound like robotic. Same thing goes with our 7-step treatment for pest control. Did we take off the outlets and treat the outlets in the kitchens and bathrooms? Did you treat the cabinets properly the way that we teach you? Did you sweep down the eaves, the soffits, the sliding glass doors, all those things, all those steps? You have to have something that you can go back to and say, hey, this is the correct way that Friendly Pest Solutions does that particular service.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you do your due diligence and you've covered all of your bases. So if there is a continued issue, you're able to really take a look and say, all right, we did everything that we're supposed to do. What's next? What do we
Correct.
have to do? For those who are interested in starting their own business, what would you suggest owners consider when developing their own SOPs?
That should be one of the first things you do before you try to go out on your own. Is really work on that foundation. Don't overthink this thing, because it's basically getting that information off your head. You have the knowledge, you have all that information, but now it just put it in on paper, and you can always refine it later. I mean, it's the standard operating procedure shouldn't be something that's graved in stone, because they're always changing, and so you always have to revisit those things. If you have a small team, involve them in that process, because they're the ones that are, out there, boots on the ground, and they are going through that process, so they can also help you put those standard operating procedures in place. Same thing with admin, so if you have your wife or you have, somebody else that's maybe answering the phones, they can also help you set the standard operating procedures for that particular position. What do you do from 8 to 10 in the morning? What keeps you busy from 8 to 10, and then have them kind of just write down a journal. In that journal, then you can utilize that to come up with your own, procedures.
What I'm hearing is start with a strong foundation, have these processes in place, but also understand that you will learn as you go what works, what's not working, and listen to your employees, listen to your coworkers, hear what their workflow seems to be naturally,
Yep.
and go from there as well. Take that into consideration.
That's correct. And what I say is, the SOP shouldn't be about controlling people. It's about supporting them. They need guidance. They have to have a roadmap, how to do things. And so that's my advice is just don't use it to control your people. Don't to control your team. It's more so supporting them. And they'll be grateful that you have something like that in place. It makes you more credible too. And your company will look more professional as well.
So I have to ask you, you've gone from having 25 to 50 customers to now 2,200. How did you find customers when you first started? To me, that seems like it's a very daunting task. I've never owned a business, so maybe that's why. But the idea of finding those customers and maintaining those customers can seem like a really daunting task when you're about to open up
Sure.
shop. So,
Sure.
how did you do it?
Honestly, it's doing the right thing. That it's as simple as that. It's just doing the right thing, and when you do that, everything just falls in place. Word of mouth. So earlier I mentioned that I started with maybe 25 to 50 customers. These customers were probably relatives or close friends of mine. They knew the passion I had for the industry, and you have to find that niche. What makes you different than others. And for me, it was taking off switchblades. They were like, well, "You do that? You put stuff in the walls, really?" Well, yeah, yeah. We're putting products in the walls. It's friendlier for if you got kids or pets, they don't come in contact with any of our products. I never once brought a 1 gallon sprayer inside the home, which that's what most people are accustomed to. The bug man coming to the house. I wanted to get that stereotype out. I wanted to be more professional. And so I think that in itself, helped me get to the where I'm at today. I mentioned cloning yourself. So again, going back to the standard operating procedures is hiring people that I could clone to do the services the way that I would do them, treat customers the way that I would treat them. That really, just helped accelerate the company to where it's at today.
When you find a good company that you enjoy working with who is able to deliver on their promise in a professional manner and take those extra steps, like you were saying, putting product in the walls instead of just coming in and just doing a once over spray. Yeah, like there's something about that I know if I had that experience with a pest control company and someone was asking me how my day was, that would be a part of it. I would be definitely mentioning that I had a great experience. And then once my friend has an issue, it just, who was your pest guy again? And then it snowballs from there.
That's
So
correct.
the quality of work is what really snowballed you into the company that you are today.
Yep. And, don't leave behind Google reviews. More people today are going to Google for everything. So you want to make sure that you have a excellent online presence, and Google reviews really help out. So earlier in my journey, that was one of my focal points was make sure that when you do a good job and you solve a customer's problem and they're happy with the service, don't forget to ask for that review because it's very, very important. All those combination of all those things I mentioned really got us to where we are today.
I love mentioning Google reviews because it is true and it is something I definitely do. As soon as you Google a name and pest, like all of them come up and you can see those reviews. And I very often go to the 1-star reviews and try to see where the consistencies are and see if there's everyone's mentioning someone's late or that the problem wasn't solved. Like, where are the consistency in these 1-star reviews? And if you can avoid falling into that
Yes,
cadence,
correct.
then you're set up. You're set up for success.
For me, 1-star reviews are just as important as 5-star reviews and responding to them appropriately. A good consumer is also going to look at those 1-star reviews. And so the way that you respond to those 1-star reviews becomes just as important as a 5-star review because You can either gain a customer by the way you respond to that, or you can lose a lot of customers by the way you respond. So I
I
take
hear
those very
that. I
serious.
hear that. So, what would be your advice to someone who it's their job to respond to these one-star reviews? What would you suggest is a positive way of responding to something that can be negative?
That's a good question. The first thing I would tell them is thank them for the review, because without the review, you wouldn't know that something broke down or something that they didn't like something about doing business with you. So I always thank them. My advice is to wait 24 hours for you to calm down, because you don't want to say the wrong thing. You want to be level headed when you respond, and you want to address the concern. And if you obviously did something wrong, admit to it. Just admit it and apologize and try to regain them back by saying, give me a second chance. We're all human. We make mistakes. If you did something wrong, admit it. Somebody else is going to read that and say, oh yeah, this company, hey, they admitted they did something wrong, and they're improving their policies or procedures, or they've made some changes with, depending on how you respond, so that's my advice.
I want to shift to technology. I know that you're with FieldRoutes. How do you feel it's changed or improved the way that you do business?
For us, it brought structure and visibility and automation to every part of our operation, from routing to billing. Those tools saves us a lot of time and money. It's the CRM that we're currently using, FieldRoutes. It's really helped us tremendously. The biggest impact has been like accountability. Everyone in our team can see everything. And so it becomes very transparent. So if something is not working, let's say our cancellations are high or our collections are too high, we can all see it. So we can address it. It's not this closet where nobody sees it and that kind of thing, and you're hiding all your problems. No, it's out here for us to fix and repair and get better. So
On that idea of transparency, I know that you every day have this 10-minute check-in with your techs. How does the route summary report play an essential role in that discussion?
the route summary really helps us engage with our customers, not only with our customers, but also with our team members. I mean, this is a 10-minute huddle that we have with each and every one of them every morning, and it kind of sets the tone for the day. We discuss the route summary from the previous day, and we basically cross our T's and dot our I's to make sure that we did exactly what we were scheduled to do on that particular appointment. And so it really kind of sets the tone for the day to make sure that our customers are being handled properly, that follow-ups are being scheduled properly, that the right products were used at that particular account, that the follow-ups are being scheduled properly. And then we can always go back to the route summary for the day that we're having the huddle for and say, okay, where are your opportunities? Where do you see where you're going to be able to clover leaf or door hang, or go to a social function that you're going to be able to network with other customers. And so that's been very, very helpful. It's important to be engaged, with not only your customers, but also your team. You have to have that one-on-one. It's so important to make sure that our team goes out in the field in a positive way. And so that's why we use it.
What would be your advice to an owner who is still dealing with pen and paper, who might be nervous about including technology, that it might take too long to implement, or there's too many systems to learn and they're really just in the thick of it?
You got to move into the 21st century. I mean, the automation portion of it is in itself will save you so much time. And in the long run, time is money. And so the investment will pay for itself, because the amount of time that you save by automating a lot of these processes and procedures, it's going to save you so much time and money. It's a scary feeling. Yes, it's an investment. You're going to put money, you're going to be investing, taking money away from your bank account and putting it somewhere else. But look at the return that you get. We were so blessed that when we first, started this company, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of other CRMs and things. And so I did my research, and I really count my blessings that I was able to get with Field Routes from the beginning, because I didn't have to transfer all these accounts and, all that mess. I tell you, Amanda, I would not be where we're at without Field Routes, just because it saves so much time. Your customers are all there. I mean, before we used to use index cards for customers, that
Yeah,
kind
I
of
can
thing.
imagine. That's hard. That's hard to kind of keep track of.
Yeah, imagine trying to schedule that. Now you have intelligent routing. Imagine trying to chase down customers that haven't paid that you have on paper. No way.
JD, before we go, I would love to know what is coming up next for Friendly Pest Solutions.
We just now recently opened up our new location down in Port Charlotte. We're very excited about that. My goal is Central Florida. I want to expand into Central Florida and grow it, give more team members, more people in the community an opportunity to work for a great company that cares about their team, and just create jobs. That's what I like to do. I love people. I love working with people, not just my team, but also customers, and just being essential to our community. I love it.
I have to say, thank you so much for coming on to Pest in Class. This was a great conversation.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Amanda.